There we are. We're live. So I'm gonna get this little Q&A feature on the side going, so people can start throwing those questions at us if they have them, and we'll just continue with our conversation. So, welcome. This is a LUG Con edition of Roll20 Q&A. So we're going to ask Nolan T. Jones, one of the OR group Roll20 folks, some questions, and hopefully a lot of questions from the crowd. But I'll just be chatting with him and asking him some of my questions. So yeah, thank you for showing up, Nolan.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to have this after 2 weeks of running around to in-person conventions. It's nice to have a wrap-up where I'm in my office and can breathe and relax a little bit. So,
home? Is it like home sweet home moment?
Home sweet home moment. I could see the dog, things like that.
Oh yeah.
The nice elements.
Amen. Well, that's the beauty of this online stuff. The virtual is like you can have everything you want around you really close. No traveling.
It's a lot easier. This whole virtual tabletop thing came from it being really difficult to fly across the country to play Dungeons and Dragons with my buddies. So, these are the things.
Amen. And hopefully you do still get some gaming on.
Not enough is the answer. It was kind of embarrassing. I got asked. So we had a panel at PAX that I did with JP McDaniels, who does role play. One of the big live streams on Twitch, and then DJ Wheat, Marcus Graham, who's a community content manager at Twitch, and then Adam Coble, who created Dungeon World. He's one of the co-creators of Dungeon World. And we're talking about things, and somebody in the audience asked, how many games do you play via Roll20 these days? It's like, I play live a lot more. Because getting into Roll20 can often be work. You come in, you look at it, and you're like, we need to move that part of the user interface here, or we need to, why haven't I fixed this yet? And the next thing I know, I start worrying about my inbox. And then it's all going to hell. We can't do that.
The fun has kind of turned into work on you, huh? Yeah. But that's all right. I want you to live it because I just jumped into it recently to do a game, 2 games this week, and I had been away from it for about a month plus, and oh my gosh, it just felt easier. I can't point to anything that actually changed.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were changes, but for some reason everything just felt easier. So.
There's always little changes is the thing, and today is a really great example of that in Roll20 land, of little changes. We really woodshedded through a bunch of card deck improvements. It was really unique in terms of updates for us because it wasn't us just usually it's us as the think tank sitting down and then taking something and throwing it out at the mentors to react, and in this case, we went ahead of time and sat down with a bunch of game creators who had, games that used cards in them to get their feedback up front, and then took that and made the changes. So it was a really different setup for us, but it went super well. Nice. I think everybody is really pleased thus far with the changes that you can now specifically choose a card from the deck if that's enabled by the GM, because some games you would want that, some games you wouldn't. There's discard now, just a bunch of things like that you can change the size at which the cards are displayed, which is really helpful for a lot of games where the default one that we had chosen, and then you could click to zoom, was not the best default depending on what you were doing with your game board. Which is all really good stuff. And the part of the reason too that the update is coming now is somebody designed a game to be played in Roll20 called Simple System. Have you seen anything about this?
No.
So Simple System, they had a Kickstarter earlier this year. They did really well, and during the Kickstarter, they contacted us and said, we actually came up with this game in Roll20. I would love for you guys to check it out. We sat down with Derek over there at Dashing Inventor Games and played through it and got a feel for it. And essentially what he's done is that he's made skill checks using card decks. And so instead of, in a Dungeons & Dragons game, you go to a bigger dice if you're better at something. I got my D12 because I've got this axe or whatever. In this game, he went you have a deck that's better. So instead of having that chance that, well, I'm better with this, well, there's still that 1 on your die. So you can still really blow it. And he segmented it in a way that now you have your good deck if you're good at something, your medium deck, and your I am absolutely terrible and have no business doing this style deck. So there's a lot of things in terms of like which deck you're going to end up drawing from based off of how you've specialized your character and things like that. It's a really interesting little system, and it's so, like, the design of it is so clean, which is really, really, like, it's just visually fun to look at. So I'm excited to hear, as more people sit down and have a chance to play it, what they think. And it's crazy cool to be to the point where people are designing games in Roll20. Like,
Nice.
how'd that happen? How did we get here?
Well, it's good though. I mean, because then you can start to use some of your strengths and wrap them or cater them right towards a specific game.
Oh yeah, it's just an interesting evolution. One of those things that I can't believe we're here. How did we come to this part of things?
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that might have been why, or sorry, let me start in the beginning. I played The Extraordinary Adventures of Baron Munchausen, and I used the cards instead of coins just to have some kind of little thing to throw out amongst players and stuff. And I knew tokens weren't going to get me what I needed, so I didn't worry about making a bunch of tokens. I just popped up the card thing and told everybody, don't worry about the face of the card.
And
just use the card as a token.
That's something people do too with like fate. That they'll put their fate points instead of trying to do it as tokens. They'll do it as a card deck, and I think that's a really elegant solution to how to do it. Like, it makes sense.
Yeah, it made the game really work easy, and in a couple minutes I was able to explain people what to do with it, and that mechanic, the trying to understand an instruction, didn't detract from the game because the cards wasn't part of Baron Munchausen, so I didn't need to spend half an hour trying to explain, okay, click right. So yeah, maybe that's why I felt this difference, why it was easier to use.
Maybe. It depends on, were you on the dev server? Because otherwise...
Oh yeah,
okay.
I am on the dev server.
That's why. Because yeah, we've had this live for a few weeks now on the dev server where we were starting to play with this and making these sorts of changes. So that probably did help things out a lot. But today is the day that it's live to everybody, whether or not they were on the development server. So.
Oh, yeah, good timing. We got 8 viewers, so you guys all heard that,
questions.
Or ladies. Yeah. Questions. Oh yeah, and bring us questions. We have a little Q&A thing. I think it's... Oh, did I just have it disabled? Hold on. The features...
That's no fun.
Oh, curses. I thought it was working. I'm sitting here waiting for questions to roll in. Well, you can ask them on the YouTube channel, because this is...
You can also tweet all over creation. That's also a really good way to holler at me, at least. I'm pretty easy to get on Twitter.
Nice. There we go. So yeah, throw your questions at us for sure. I apologize, that Q&A app is not working for me for some reason, and I'm not going to focus on it. So there's multiple ways to get us. We'll be listening.
That's true.
Yeah, so I really have to say thumbs up with the character sheets. I think I even talked about it before in the spring when we chatted, but they are just looking really sweet, really enjoyable.
That's one of those things that's... we'd love to take credit for that, but really all we did was flip the switch. The community came together and really made some awesome content there that is so useful depending on what you're playing. So, yeah, amazing moment to see. What's it up to now? Last I saw it was, how many sheets are there?
Oh man, you got those numbers.
Yeah, at least 40-some different games that you can pick from, which is just wild.
And I feel like it simplified some of the making macros, because now when a person fills out their sheet, boom, you just pull up strength. I have Shadowrun, and so our goal is kind of every game to get that sheet a little bit better for each character. So then by the end, we're just clicking buttons and being masters.
No, it really does speed things up for folks who want to do it that way, and for the games where I don't think it's the sort of thing where every game needs or wants to use that sort of. And I think even some of the games that are listed in there are things where it's like, do I really need a sheet to to roll from this game? Probably not. I mean, something like a Dungeon World, I can set up one macro, and that really takes care of 90% of my rolls. I don't need a full-on sheet in the interface. But then you look at something like, for folks playing Pathfinder Society, that character vault in particular is a way to, moving your character between games is crazy helpful to being able to jump around and do society-style play like that.
Actually, somebody did ask me a question. They were trying to set up a new Roll20 campaign for a game idea that they had, and they were wondering if you could easily port things that are on one setup or one campaign, I guess it would be, into another campaign.
So the character vault's the feature for that allows you to take your to take the character in that method. Other than that, I mean, mentors can transmogrify parts of a campaign. So if you're looking to do some element that you've got a game like Arkham Horror, where you've taken all this time to set up 14 different card decks, and you want to port that to another, maybe not port the game board or whatever. That gives you the options to go and do some things like that. So that's your copy and paste things within your own little empire of gaming behind the scenes methods.
Okay, nice. Because I told him no. And now,
well, I mean, there definitely are limitations, because I do believe that both those. I mean, the character vault's a supporter level feature, and the transmogrifier is a mentor level feature. So I mean, both of them aren't in the free package. So that's one thing. If you're not willing to pay, then you can't use these. But another thing is too that we really do keep a fairly close eye on trying to make certain that these things aren't account to account sharing, because we really don't want to end up enabling a bunch of pirating of games and stuff like that is really our concern. So, that's one of those things that we try to make the tools work in a way that it's all interior, personal use type stuff to keep that piracy level out of things. And so far, so good. We'll see how life goes as we keep growing. I fear that people keep trying to find new and inventive ways to get around things.
Of course, that's how gamers are and people in general. We do have a question on the YouTube comments, and it's from Jonathan Henry. Thanks for all your work too, Jonathan Henry. He's been hosting a Giant Dragons Gamers chat for us, but his question is, what is coming to Roll20? So we talked about cards came to everybody today.
So we've got two really, really big things that there are coin flips right now that we're trying to figure out which direction goes first. Because we haven't decided which direction goes first, I'm hesitant to say, here's what it is, because inevitably somebody's going to get really excited about this one and not about that one, and then I've created problems as we hush behind the scenes work on that stuff. But I will say one of the things to look forward to, just from not from the interface standpoint, but from the company standpoint, we are probably making our first hires here in the next month and a half. And that's a really big, it may not be as big a deal as saying, here's this shiny new feature to some, but as far as, the ongoing growth of Roll20 and our ability to do things faster, we are going to be sitting down. We'll be putting out job descriptions here before the end of the month and try to have interviews here this month, beginning of next month, to get some hires by end of October. So
wow,
this is real now. It's not just three of us that in it. It does look now like we'll have some room to have some other employees that could really help out and help us keep growing. So that's a really, really big, and that's been a lot of what the summer has been, is trying to figure out how we approach that, because it's one of those, it's one thing when it's the three of us sitting around and doing it, but it brings in whole other legal and payroll aspects and stuff like that. So it's sitting down with the lawyers and being like, so if we hire somebody in this state, what are the rules that we have to look after, and if we, there's all these things that we have to worry about that when it's just a partnership, you don't have to worry about the same way as you do with employee labor laws. So we've been, as we have with everything, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, and really making certain that we're going about this the right way. But that's been a lot of what this summer has been, is kind of getting ready for that and traveling to conventions.
Yeah.
has been a bulk of things this summer. But like I said, we do have two really big features that are both game-changing. We're entering new areas that will really, really have people excited. That I would expect one of those will probably be announced. Maybe not this month, but next month we'll probably have made the decision go, this is what we're doing. But beyond that, do look for us to be putting out a seeking help post about the first few hires for Roll20, which is just...
Now, I got to nail you down.
Yeah.
You know, I'm currently jobless, but
we're making the pitch already.
Yeah, but from that aspect, what type of resume should they be making it? I mean, are you looking for text, social media, or undecided?
So one of the things we've been doing is we've been sitting down and trying to figure out where the best, because this is one of those things, you can sit down and go, oh man, I would love to have this, that, and the other, but really sitting down and figuring out where we are, where we're weak right now, or where we're working too much. And we sat down and we calculated how many hours we were working, and we are working about the hours of 5.5 people right now between the three of us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we're looking to hire about 2.5 people is the way the conversation goes right now. I would assume we're going to have one of them be a programming position that's going to be a full-time HTML5 mini wizard to Riley's maxi wizard style position, and then beyond that, I think we will end up doing something that is very customer service, but with elements of what I do in terms of marketplace management, contacting different publishers about bringing their content to Roll20, and some of those extra. One part customer service, one part branding, licensing, and just general community maintenance. You know, so helping out with the forums and things like that will end up being some of the areas that's involved. And to that end, I mean, we'll see what the applications are like. I know that we are sitting down and trying to get more of that into the exact, you know, what do we need in terms of proficiency? Like somebody there will need that they can use Photoshop, that they can use Illustrator and stuff like that. Like that's going to be something that we've got to have for those sorts of positions, but also too the expectation and the willingness to jump in. And I mean, we get a lot of email, and that's the thing where you know, we are just now switching to our first, I guess not our first, but our second stab at sitting down and doing a professional customer service web app. Like so something that takes in emails. It's a a desk organizer. It takes emails, and then you figure out which customer service rep is handling it and where it is. And that sort of previously, and this is one of those lucky things that we built this. You know, we're all college roommates and have known each other forever, and we're all in each other's weddings. We knew this sort of email gets answered by Nolan, this sort of email gets answered by Richard, this sort of email gets answered by Riley, and it's super rare that anything slips through the cracks with us because we just know this is whose email it is. But now as we're expanding to other people and trying to get it to move better and faster, it was time to sit down and really institutionalize a lot of that. So that is what we are doing now, is getting some of that software up and running. And the test of it we've only been doing it, about a week. And it's been going really well so far. But nice. now we'll be plugging in new people, hopefully, to do some of that. But yeah, customer service experience for that one, and proficiency in, can you use spreadsheets? Can you use Illustrator and Photoshop and those other sort of image editing softwares? Beyond that, just a tenacious willingness to take on an ever-expanded. I mean, so we are 20 minutes into this interview. I haven't even mentioned, yesterday we passed 600,000 users.
Oh, wow.
Yesterday was the day that happened, and now those sorts of things they just happen in a way that it's 20 minutes into a discussion before I go, oh, by the way, we hit this huge person milestone. And that's one of those, that's where we're at right now. We need people hired so that we have time to
Yeah.
smell those things.
Well, even if you had 10% of those people asking questions, that's a ton of email for sure.
Oh my gosh.
So, just really briefly, really quickly, where should they look when it comes up? Is it for
It'll
their
be all over
job
the
opening?
place.
Okay,
I'd
so
assume
you
our
guys heard it.
blog is probably going to be a safe spot to check for it. I would assume that our message boards are going to be a safe place to look for it. I'm certain that we'll do some sort of posting on social media that it's happened. I will say it's probably going to be a tight window between us posting and us going into interviews. So that might be something to expect. That we'll, when it's go time, it's go time. But
Nice.
I think, like I said, right now we've got the descriptions half written, and probably just need to sit down, approve them, and figure out, okay, this is how many hours exactly are we budgeting for this person, and what is our potential. And that's another thing too, like figuring out potential salary ranges and stuff like that is such.
Yeah. But don't want to give away too much right now.
It's not even a giving away thing. It's just a matter of like sitting down and making those. The scariest thing about all of this is being the adults now. There's nobody else in the room being like, this is what it should be. It's sitting down, there's three of us, and going, is this what it should be? I mean, I guess that makes sense. That seems fair, right? Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing that is coming soon, and that's taken up a fair amount of energy, but it's going well.
Well, I want our viewers to be prepared, so be checking that website, get your resumes ready, because it's go time when that happens. We got a couple questions, but one question from a new user of Roll20. Lold, I know I hacked that up. Leo LD #1. He was wondering, is there a way to limit looking for new groups to ones with open slots? I guess he's found a lot of groups that are already full, and I'm assuming he's talking through Roll20.
Yes, yeah, he's talking about the looking for group system, and there currently isn't essentially, the way it's set up right now, it doesn't necessarily. Full means that there's the applicants, but doesn't necessarily mean that they've been signed off on by the game master. There's a bunch of stuff that we need to do there in terms of polishing that up, and we're well aware that the looking for group system needs some overhauling. Things that I'm really looking forward to that second programmer being around, so we've got time to go. This is it's tough because it's not part of the actual application, but it's one of those things that suffers and needs some more love because it is getting used out there. But no, to answer his question, you can't do that currently, and we know that that's a shortfall there in terms of ways to. We are looking at a lot of different ways to sort through that sand. We made a few changes at the beginning of the summer just to get rid of some of the. We had people that were essentially posting. We're only playing in this language, and then tagging every single game possible, even if there was no chance that they were playing, the Mouse Guard RPG or whatever they said they were, so that the language would be posted there. So we went and we changed some of those things to limit it to you can only post under this many games, you can only do this and that, and we're trying to now figure out what some of the bigger issues, because this was another thing I was talking about at our Penny Arcade panel, is that we unintentionally are now being sought as the Match.com of role-playing groups.
Wow.
People want to find groups, people who have not played in years, people who are playing for the first time, and so there's a lot there in terms of what they need for search tools. And ours was very basically, hey, maybe there's some people playing some games on Tuesday night. Hopefully they're playing the game you want. That's not working anymore. And we know that that's an area where we're going to need to go and really scrub that up in the months to come. So, good question, because that is an area where, sorry, it's not working the way you want it right now.
But they'll be fixing that because they got 2.5 more people to onboard, so that's good. We got a question from Slushy Studios. How many years till 3D or Oculus Rifts come on game boards? Come on. And you kind of answered this. Sorry, as I read it, I realized those things were actually created by community members.
Well, I think what he's asking about there is Like how long until there's full on 3D virtual tabletop gaming?
Oh, thank you. Sorry. Oops.
Is what the question is, and that's a tough say. I think the biggest thing will become price point. At the end of the day, when that technology is at a price point that works for everybody, that's when we'll start to see something like that be successful, and that's not yet anywhere close. And it's just one of those. I think one of the reasons that Roll20 has been successful is that the price point is free for the basic use, and that's made a really big difference in terms of. If you think about it, when people play these games in person, one person goes out and buys the rule set, and you're lucky if you get the other people to chip in and do pizza. And so that's been a thing for us, that approaching it from that angle has been much more successful than those that have a big price point up front. But a lot of those 3D elements, that's a lot in terms of, first off, everybody's got to have the gear to make it work. Second off, all the assets that you're going to have are going to need to be 3D modeled, mapped, and prepped in those ways. So if you think about it, it took us a while to have the sort of marketplace we have with all this amazing content that now we're one of the biggest digital repository for RPG elements out there on the internet. But it took a long time to get there. And we were just dealing with two-dimensional pictures. Taking that to a three-dimensional level and making it financially solvent for people, that's going to be crazy hard, and it's going to take time. There are some people out there trying at it, but I don't see it happening until there are some major shifts in the technological price points with it. I could be wrong, but that's just, from my experience and my very biased vantage point, that's what I see.
And I'm glad you had better reader comprehension than I did. I saw the 3D and was thinking a three-sided die.
No, I get. I do a lot of these. that's all it is.
It's saving me here. Thank you.
I have a lot of interviews, so I get these questions more than you do.
Well, another one. John Henry's up again with a question, and it's about integrating your music with your game. So he said, how about integration with SoundCloud? He kind of feels it's a little clunky right now. Is there any plans to deal with putting music in?
Right now, the biggest problems, I think, are the tagging and placing. It's not a problem of access to what's on SoundCloud. It's a problem that once you get it in Roll20, organizing it the way you want. And that's the sort of thing that the jukebox could use some overhaul. That said, we're very, very happy with what SoundCloud provides us in terms of, there's a lot of variance out there in what's available for the music. It's a great solution for us in terms of copyright because SoundCloud really is on top of that in a great way. And it's also really fun because it's a really active community. People are putting up, now people are writing music for use in Roll20 and tagging it as such, which is just mind-blowing, crazy, but so cool that that sort of thing is out there and that people are doing that and making that sort of content to use in Roll20. So, yeah, there definitely needs to be some fixes to, right now, it's jukebox organization. It's really what it is. That on our end, once you've selected the tracks that you're interested in, cleaning it up in a way that makes it quick to hop in there and utilize it is something that could use an overhaul. At the same time, it's not as much of a priority as so many of the other things that are. Card deck features are much more integral to playing on a virtual table than the music in the background, especially since it does. Functionally it works. It's just a matter of the organization isn't nearly as elegant as we would like, and that's the thing that we're aware of.
And definitely, you brought up something that I thought was an interesting point. So people are making music specifically to play during a Roll20 game on SoundCloud. What are some quick tags I should use?
Roll20 is what you want to go to SoundCloud and look for things that are tagged Roll20. And some of it isn't necessarily the user created. Some of it is just stuff that folks have found work
Well,
But
it'd be nice to have like lightning and footsteps and doors creaking and you know.
yeah, this is Roll20 wet dungeon crawl sounds. Roll20 rain sounds.
Yeah. I played in a game where a person had that thunder going. It was a Gerardo game, and we were down in the Amazon, and have that rain going while he's talking as a GM, and just ever present really set the mood. So I love hitting those other senses
Oh
besides
yeah.
just my sight. I don't do it well, but if I could, I'd be all over it. So you know.
And that's the thing. We get a lot of people contacting us about when we're going to add some sort of paid music element to the marketplace. And I think that that would be a really cool thing because there are so many professionals out there putting out professional quality work that should be making money off this sort of thing. We just haven't figured out how we're going to integrate that or how we're going to approach it if and when that day comes. But hopefully that'll be something that we're able to do down the line.
Nice. Now another question I wanted to jump to because Ignacio Grande asked it, and Jonathan Black said it's possible. I've tried to do this in the past, and it was hard for me, but I could have gone to the forums, asked for help, is getting dual GMs in a campaign. Like I had a
Yeah.
campaign where I wanted two of us a GM. What's your recommendation of the best way to
I
approach
mean,
that?
just promote to GM. You can promote somebody else within the campaign.
Now, I
And
did that,
get
and
as
my
many.
person had problems.
What sort of problems?
Well, it was in terms of inviting people. Now
Okay.
it's been like probably about 6 months since I did this, but he couldn't really invite people. Gosh, I'll have to get a list from him. But there are some rights that I had as a creator of the
Yeah,
campaign
he
that
didn't
he
have
didn't.
as the game master.
Yeah.
It's been so long since I have done that, and also I'm I'm looking at the app from Crazy Developer that I'm not even certain, so I would have to look at that some more. But yeah, you absolutely can functionally have somebody as the game master with you. It's just a question of what are you looking to do beyond. I mean,
And
the
maybe it was creating a page too. Gosh, I wish I could remember. It was
at,
something that seemed simple.
at base you want it to be that the other person is able to run the game
Yeah.
with you, and that is something that I know that you can give a whole lot of permissions to another person within the application, even if they didn't create it. And that's the thing that we have a lot of people doing with, okay, I signed up for the account. I'm paying to have a supporter account, so there's dynamic lighting and stuff like that, but I don't have time to go and run a game. And so somebody else in the group is promoted to a game master doing that. But as for what specific problems you're coming up against, that is a great thing to swing by the forums and say, hey, this isn't working the way it's supposed to, because that's an area that we definitely want to work the way it is supposed to.
Yeah, and that definitely, at that point, I didn't even think about it. The forums are a great resource, everybody. So if you do have a question, hit those forums.
That's dang rich. Well, and that's
Yeah.
it. Jonathan the Black is out there watching this and answering questions. People like that are all over the forums helping others get into the program for the first time. And beyond the moderators, there's just tons and tons of people out there that are in the application all the time, trying things out, and are a really, really great resource for, oh yeah, this is one way I've gotten to do that. And that's something else too, is that with a lot of the different things that people are trying to do, there's different solutions, and it's best to find the way you want to skin that cat is the end result.
Amen. Now, I do have to say thank you for making it possible to have multiple GMs, because my situation is I was running the Matrix RPG, and this other person had great ideas, and I really wanted them to be able to run every other week, to kind of fill in my gaps. So that was awesome to have that ability.
No, it's absolutely something that, I mean, in real life, that's the thing that you've got other people that, oh, I can't do it this week, but you don't want the game to stop. So
Yeah.
it's a really important thing to have.
That was definitely awesome. Gosh, why is my question leaving me, Trey? Oh, it left me again. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm making a handoff here.
Okay.
My wife was home for lunch and is now headed on out the door, and apparently left a bunch of things under my desk. So I'm
And that gives me the perfect couple minutes here to figure out what my next question was.
I don't have any out on the Twitters, which is usually where I get them.
We have some great views. We got 8 people watching right now, and it's been floating between 10 and so I assume that people are coming and going for sure. Wow, it was a spectacular question. I can't believe it just left me. And it
I'll
was
use this. I'll use this time. I'll hop in and remind myself that House of War, our webcomic, our fantasy webcomic, the season finale is this Friday, and that is something to absolutely check out. The artwork on it is gorgeous so far, and a whole bunch of really, really big things happen to the guild. So if that's something you've been reading, or if you want to jump in for the first time, it's all available online for free. And it's been really, really good so far, and I'm excited about where this season ends off and what it gets us ready for next. So
nice. I definitely have to check out the ore. I don't read as much as I should online.
well, that's the thing.
Like, I read PDFs, but I don't seem to get into reading a website.
So this is an absolutely terrible story. At Gen Con, I had a panel with Scott Kurtz, who does PvP and Table Titans, Brian Patterson, who writes D20 Monkey and draws D20 Monkey, and then Ryan Somer, who writes Least I Could Do, Gutters, and Looking for Group comics. So these are huge people in the web comics industry. I have no business being being with these people, but they were nice enough to humor me and do a panel. And beforehand, we were talking with Ryan, who does Looking for Group, and the comic he started off with, Least I Could Do. Riley was like going between. Richard and I were standing at his booth talking to him. And Riley's walking along somewhere, and he comes up. And we're like, "Hey, Riley, this is Ryan. He did Least I Could Do." And I was like, "Oh, that used to be one of my favorite webcomics." And he goes, "Used to be? You're the jerk that ruined everything." And it's one of those things, like, there's so many webcomics out there now that it's hard to keep up with everything. And it's one of those things, those guys, Ryan and Scott in particular, are lucky that they got in as early as they did and had so many eyeballs, because there wasn't the sort of content back then. So that's the thing. I mean, they are naturally going to have so many more people looking at what they're doing than somebody starting up late. If I didn't have Roll20 here propping up what we're doing with House of War, it wouldn't have been able to start like this. We wouldn't have, we couldn't have done so many pages as quickly as we have and that sort of thing. This would have been a much, much harder fight to get eyeballs to it. But this is one of those lucky circumstances that running a role-playing software and having a role-playing webcomic, they mesh together nicely in a way that works and gets eyeballs where they need to be. But yeah, you are not alone in that problem of, man, there's too much stuff to read.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't get into it, because I grew up with comic books, but I know friends of mine are constantly giving me links to, a frame or two that I need to go read. And so that's usually, I get it in bits and pieces, like the old Sunday comics used to be, one strip at a time.
That's the thing that's really amused me about House of War, is that it's 8 core characters are the good guys, and they're all very, very different. Like, something we set up with from the beginning was that they would all pass a silhouette test. That even if you couldn't see them, the shadow of them is unique enough that you're like, oh, that's that character. And part of that was that all of them were going to have similar names, so we needed as much. Like, their attitudes had to be very, very different. The way they look had to be very, very different, because otherwise, if they all look the same, they all sound the same, and you get confused way too quickly. So we made them crazy different as possible. And the result of that has been, over time, is that there's really an element of reaction image. Like, a lot of the stuff that's there for characters works really, really well for memes. And so there's been a proliferation of that on different message boards of people using House of War stuff to, no, 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 or like all the various way over the top faces that these characters are making, which is awesome. So great that it's used like that, but it's been interesting to see that use.
Yeah, isn't that one of the greatest forms of flattery? So
yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's really cool to have people using us in their day-to-day conversations in that way. It's really cool.
Nice. And I had a side question for last year at Gen Con. You were on a panel. I swear you were on a panel
I was.
about like tech being in games, like technology in games and stuff like that. Or I feel like you were. Oh man, I might be putting you somewhere where you
It's
might not
it's
have
a
been.
thing I talk about a lot. So
Well, this year, were there any good panels at Gen Con that talked about technology? Did you hear anything this summer that kind of like got you scratching?
I mean, it's terrible to say, but I was so caught up in our own world is the truth of the matter. I mean, I can come at this from the angle of I feel very qualified to talk about technology in the hobby because we just won the Edie for best software again 2 years running. So
Nice.
I can talk about good technology in role playing games because somebody thinks that we're doing it right, even if we aren't necessarily the best, that somebody is voting that way. So thank goodness for the folks out there doing that. But as far as other developments, the only thing I've really heard much buzz on of late is folks talking about Golem Arcana, which is a really cool, kind of a hybrid system that you're playing with a tabletop, but you're using these digital elements. I think that they've got an interesting road ahead of them, though, and just that it's I think $75 for the core set, and like I was talking about earlier, man, that's a big hump to overcome when you're first getting somebody into the hobby. But it's a really cool looking thing, and they've definitely been out in force at Gen Con. They were out. They had a huge display area at PAX, and seemed to be really busy. People were really, really into it. So that is, it's an awesome looking product, and it's something that's a really cool technological space that is using physical tokens, but they have this digital element that you're tracking via tablets and stuff like that. Really, really cool. But kind of like the things that you see with your Disney Infinity and Skylanders and all that sort of stuff. That it's something physical interplays with this video game world, but at the same time, it's $75 is a whole lot. Oh man.
Yeah. I play tested that one, 2014, and it was very engaging, very cool. And right in the middle of our play test, they had technical difficulty.
Yeah.
So, if you can imagine, you're trying to link all these different tentacles, and sometimes they just don't mesh up. And so it was like we got most of the way through their demo. Just, a friend of mine,
Yeah.
we were sitting there battling with the creatures and all that kind of stuff, and it was neat watching it compute all this. And the guy's like, "Oh, and you can bring in a tablet." And then all of a sudden it just said, "Restart
Well, yeah.
battle." And then I was like, "What?" Almost killed this thing. But it was a great idea, and it started me thinking that whole how you start linking your devices with the game board you're playing and all that kind of stuff.
And I'll say secondary screens, I think, are a really interesting part of what's going to be happening for everybody in technology. A great example, Destiny, the new Bungie game that comes out next week, this new space shooter. The majority of the lore and weapon stats, and there's so much information that isn't in the game. They've put it in a phone app so that you have your phone up beside you and can, okay, I want to read more about this thing that I just got. What's it doing? What's in it? And it's all there, as part of your phone, as opposed to as part of the game, which is really
Nice.
in a console where you can't, go click a mouse and open a window and close a window the same way that you would a computer. I think it's a really, really smart thing. But yeah, we will be seeing more and more of that secondary, using instead of allowing you to get distracted by your secondary device,
Yeah.
you using that to make it part of the experience, which is really, really smart.
Yeah, it's the next level for sure. I remember my question, but I'm not going to ask it yet. But I'm glad I remembered it. Yay!
I
But
see we have a question from
Charles
Jonathan.
Goodwin.
Oh,
Oh, sorry. Charles Goodwin asked a question here. I got up.
okay.
Is there a way to build a wall that auto includes a dynamic lighting in it? When crafting a long dungeon, going back over after to enter light can take a lot of time, and I always want a line right in the middle of the wall. Is there
Yeah,
any plan to include
there's
walls plus dynamic lighting?
no. I mean, it's two separate things in terms of the image and the dynamic lighting layer. So attach a dynamic lighting layer to the image is just not something that we're looking to do yet. I mean, yeah, it's a great time saver for some of those things, but at the same time, we we still are pushing back some against the idea that you're supposed to be making full maps in Roll20. That a lot of it should be you're bringing in maps from, and there are ways to, the map tile sets are very, very popular, but I think that there are folks who are moving towards that more established map middle ground. If you haven't already, check out Arknight Publishing. They do maps via us, and it's great because they have these large sections instead of singular square tiles. That it's all right. Here's a full cathedral, and then here's the chapel, and you can change the way the chapel connects, and then you change the way the courtyard connects. But the courtyard is one big thing. The chapel is one big thing. The cathedral is one big thing, and the way it's just changing the way those bigger parts link up. It's a very, very slick way, and so it doesn't become a full-on. I'm spending 90 minutes in Roll20 organizing every little tile to set up, because honestly, most of the time that's not what you want to do unless you're trying to make very specifically a maze or something like that. What you're looking for is you're looking to have areas to stage cool set pieces, and this is a way to have those set pieces with some customization that you don't get if I just go and get a 3200 Uber map. Instead, this is something where you've got a little bit more control and can mix and match elements without getting into that nitty-gritty. But jumping 10 minutes ago to the question, that's nothing we're planning currently now.
No, good to know for sure, because I believe it should be more of the scenes, not the whole huge map. And
yeah, well,
you told me before, a long time ago, you said don't sit there and put, what was it, like a bunch of PNG images together? Yeah. So it's probably slowing things down if you have a lot of little pieces.
Yeah, but that's the thing too, that it was a matter of not only instructing users not to do that, but also clamping down and making certain that marketplace creators knew the only time you should be using a PNG is when you need transparency. The people who are doing those map tile sets, a lot of those don't need transparency because they're full squares. So the full square is going to connect to a full square. There doesn't have to be any transparent overlap. Use a JPEG. It's so much faster to load for everybody. And all of this is on the wiki. This isn't something that you have to divine out of thin air or something like that. The steps to make this all quickly load for everybody are all out there, something we want people to know because it helps your game experience dramatically to play that in the right way. So.
Yeah, once you start streamlining everything, you get your players back. So it's worth perusing that.
We've made a bunch of changes behind the scenes to the way that Roll20 stuff loads to incorporate some of these things that we hadn't planned on initially, and it really is much faster than it used to be, even if you're doing crazy things like putting in loads of PNGs. But you're still not giving yourself the. I mean, while everything is improved. It's improved most for the people that are doing it right.
yeah. There you go.
So,
Amen.
Yeah.
And let's touch on Jonathan's question. Do you have it in front of you, or?
Is there any chance of GMs getting access to style sheets, skins, to change the appearance of Roll20? Maybe. This is something we've talked about a fair amount, and I think our big concern is already we're. So popular live streams are a great example. That folks who go in and put skins over Roll20 and stuff like that, it gets to a point where you don't even know that it's being done in Roll20. And so there's a branding angle from that end that we go, we really do want there to be a brand and something consistent there. And we know that our brand could be cleaner, better, and stuff like that. And those are things that we are looking at and working on. But the other side of it is, so those are scenarios where those are professional streamers. And so at least what they're covering us up with looks good. There's a lot of people out there who would cover us up with stuff that looks absolutely awful, and it's going to scare off people. Oh, Roll20, I saw somebody streaming that. That looked terrible. We don't want anything to do with that. So that's something where we've been really, really hesitant to jump into. There are now some, and I'm certain Jonathan is aware of this, that there are now some things that you can put a background for your campaign forums and do some changes there that allow there's magic. There's actually a matrix, like scrolling numbers set up, a field.
Where is it? Show me. No, I'll go look it up. Now I
No,
know it exists. I'll go look it up.
So you have. Oh man, this is. So you can set it up so that a background exists that has some. Go back to the campaign.
Because if anybody knows me, they know I love the Matrix. So
that's why I went for that one first. I knew what I was doing. Whoa. So yeah, this is a setup that I've gone and changed the background to do that. That sort of setup so that you would be able to have those sorts of things in the background. And there's not many of them yet. We've just rolled out a trial of 3 different images that can be used for that, and that's something that we'll probably expand some more. But that's something that's very controlled. That's a clean, polished, clear. So we rolled out a quick sci-fi, a quick fantasy, just very, very basic things for those sorts of areas. And we should probably go back and do more of that. But at the same time, just willy-nilly letting everybody, it can end up not just. Well, there's some people who are going to use it to great effect and do absolutely amazing things that we couldn't even fathom with it. It also makes it dangerous in that one of the reasons that a lot of the other virtual tabletops have never gotten to this 600,000 person level is that too much customization made things look ugly, and gave the wrong people the power to make things look really, really awful. And that's the sort of thing that scares off. I'm certain you yourself have seen things that you've gone, ugh, what is that game they're playing? I don't want anything. What is that website? It looks awful, and that is a real concern of ours. That's something that we want to avoid as much as possible, to make certain that we are bringing experiences that looks nice, because that's going to bring more people to it, and is easy to use. And that's another thing too that I'm aware of another prominent RPG website. They had a problem with their background and the texts weren't properly separating in terms of color schemes, and it messed up a whole bunch of things for their users. And that's the sort of thing that we are terrified of accidentally having happen. So right now we're control freaks.
But for quality, with a purpose.
Yeah, I think so. Others might disagree, and that's the thing too, though, is that all of this, there are other programs out there that are better for you if you are the control freak. There really are. But our whole thing has been, we want this to be the easiest to use for everybody. We want everybody to be able to hop into this and to quickly, efficiently start playing games. And so there's some things as far as customization that if you open that rabbit hole up too much, it becomes overload. There's too much there to interact with. There's too much there that it can't be done. So we've made our decisions as far as where we fall on that line, and we'll keep evolving and keep finding ways to make changes for people that are simple. But it will be after we figured out the way to do it, the clean way is our hope.
Nice. So I got my question. I can't believe it took me so long. So a long time ago, to share your screen and do like a broadcast, you said it was complicated. This is like over a year ago you said it was complicated.
Yeah.
And now Twitch TV is sold to Amazon for billions of dollars and all that good stuff.
Just under $1 billion. I was at Twitch's party at PAX. It was a great time. Saw a lot of awesome folks there. It was super, super fun. They had everybody was really, really enjoyed this party. In that it was, apparently they usually have much more. It's funny, Richard and Riley went to their party at PAX East, and it's much more club thumping style. And this is funny that their big one after they made just under $1 billion was a really relaxed party at a bowling alley with food, just hanging out and talking. It was a great atmosphere for people to just sit around, chat, and swap stories. But yeah, Twitch is awesome.
So what is a good way to share my screen? Because I want to get to that point now with Roll20 where I want to share my screen.
The truth of the matter is YouTube still has not, and Google still haven't made it so that you can integrate everything in a way that makes sense. You can't bring over your background in terms of like an application like Roll20, you can't show it, which is problematic for
Yeah.
it doesn't work. So you're probably going to need some sort of software to do something like that with Twitch. So there are a few guidelines that we put up on our wiki that show you, okay, here's some programs that we would suggest, here's the settings that we would suggest for streaming a game for the first time. Let me see if I can get some of that in front of me.
Yeah, because LUG Con is very Google centric, and
Yeah,
so
I mean, I am very Google centric. I mean, I can't remember what life was like before Google Docs. What
Amen.
was that? I have no idea. But yeah, so this page that I am sharing with you is the live stream and record games area. It goes into XSplit, who's somebody that we've worked with in the past officially when we did some online conventions. Wiretap and some other things that are out there for quickly streaming games. And those do have a price because they are premium streaming options. But you take something like that, plug it into Twitch, and you have really, really great results. I will say that we are actively trying to work with, and it's funny because there's a lot of different people that would have to work together to make this happen. But there are some settings right now in browsers that, if they were changed, it would make it easier to launch something. So right now, the new generation of Xbox, the Xbox One, the PlayStation 4, you can launch Twitch streams from your game. You just say, Xbox broadcast this. It goes. It's out there. People can see it, which is awesome. You can't do that yet from your browser, and there are things that would make that available if they would just switch flip the switch. And so we are having conversations with people going, hey, wouldn't it be really cool if everybody, and this is something too, all the time we get requests from people, oh man, I would just love to be able to really simply sit down and watch games that are going on Roll20. And while right now you definitely can go to Twitch, get on our, like we are now a game on Twitch, you can look up Roll20 Virtual Tabletop. And there are games going almost all the dang time, and a huge backlog of videos too that you can look over time and see what folks are doing with. I mean, so here are all of the games played in the last month on Twitch. You can go and see that they've tagged themselves as using Roll20. So many options, so many cool things out there that people are doing, and we would love to have the option within the application to just launch that. But we need some developers out there who are working on things like Chrome, who are over at Twitch and stuff like that, to make a couple small changes that would make that possible for us. And we're having those conversations. We'll see what happens.
Oh, nice, nice. That's the kind of stuff we need, Like you say, it's not just one person to make a lot of these things better. It's a couple things working in unison. So awesome. Keep it up. Well, that was my question. I'm hoping that we have another couple questions from people here. Oh, yeah, that's what it was. There was Ignacio Grande, and he said, how about printing out maps created in Roll20?
No.
Some maps are gorgeous.
I mean, there are definitely some gorgeous maps there. I think, though, the thing to realize is that we really have optimized to be online. So even though we've got a lot of people that you can download the stuff for use outside of Roll20, what we have had them do very specifically is optimize for online. It doesn't have so when you're printing, the dots per inch is very, very important as far as how it comes out looking, and we have had them very specifically geared towards a lesser DPI, which doesn't matter on a screen in the same way as it does when it's printed, because that's going to load a lot faster on a screen. So it's really, really not, like, if you really want to, you can, but it's not going to be the same as if you're trying to, if you're trying to have professional level maps for your printed space, there are much better ways to go about it. And there's things, too, that you should be looking to some of the creators on the marketplace. Saul Wynn, who has done some really great work on the marketplace, was involved in the Kickstarter this past year that was very specifically, these are giant, oversized printed maps. They are beautiful, but it's the sort of thing that that is that is very specifically geared for that, and it's not the sort of thing that transfers to us well, because we don't want that sort of file size. We don't want that sort of dot per inch that's optimized for printing. So, yeah.
Good to know. I've seen some crazy printing projects just online with people like taking screen by screen and then like pasting it on their wall and stuff like that. So I can imagine it probably gets ridiculous pretty quick.
It does.
And plus, you have a purpose. Like you said, you're trying to really keep the game speedy. And yeah, nice. Gosh, I can't think of any more like very general questions.
It's been an hour. I think we've done a good job, unless somebody else has got something specific that.
Yeah, there you go. Last call to throw some stuff our way. Plus, if you aren't watching the actual event, folks out there, there's been a couple of questions asked and answered and a couple comments made. So I definitely say go to the event and just read the comments for a couple other things to add to this. I love just the tech talk in general. You know, pulling it a little bit more outside of Roll20 and just like what does tech have to offer gamers.
Yeah.
I really love where that's going. I feel like I live in the future, and people like your company and yourself are pushing the boundaries of the future even more. You know, and so I appreciate it. You know, thank you for doing that so much. And I can't wait till next year when I can listen to some tech panels and see what people are doing in terms of, you know, helping people game with their iPads and laptops and stuff in a group setting, so that they're not a distraction, but they're actually incorporated in it. Like, I use my dice roller a lot now. I used to rail against it, like, no, I need my dice. And now I'm kind of like, when I have a backpack and I need to take, you know, my bike or whatever over, and I don't want 10 pounds of dice, I'll just bring that and kind of work through it. So it's awesome. Plus, I do appreciate keeping Roll20 accessible through iPads and mobile devices.
Oh, yeah.
That's just so helpful when I need to go look at the journal and pull up like just a quick character's something.
And that's something too. That's an area that I think we would like to make some improvements to and expand upon in the future. So we'll see what it'll do. Yeah.
I went outside of Roll20 to try and do like character journals and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized that the Roll20 one is just, it does everything I needed. So it was kind of weird. I went and spent all this time making all these posts and yada yada, and it's like, wait, my characters make changes. It's updated on the website right there.
Some of that, though, we do need to make more accessible outside of the application, things like that. And those are, earlier when I was talking about possible stuff coming down the line, keep your ears open.
Cool, because I like that. I like being able to track my campaign over time, because I think when I get new people on board, they can actually just go to the campaign and read everything instead of like me sitting for 2 hours telling them, this is what we did starting a year ago, get your coffee, and you know, this is how the characters changed 6 months ago. They can just read it or post a question to the players, and it doesn't take or consume a lot of the GM's personal time.
Sure, and this is, I think, the more we mature, hopefully, the more we'll be able to provide some. Like right now, you can do a lot of that with campaign forums and things like that, but some of that does need to be cleaned up, and we're talking about ways that we might go about it. So things to look forward to.
Yay! Nice. Well, awesome. Did you have any last comments that we might have missed?
I don't think. I mean, I talked about what's going on. Right? Simple System is the big thing today. Check that out if you haven't. And the card deck features that kind of helped us get that ready. Beyond that, the big House of War season finale Friday, and I think we'll probably have. Right now, there's audio up and out there if you want to hear the PAX Prime convention panel that we did, but I know somebody took video, but they haven't posted it yet, and I'm hoping that'll come up soon. We can share that, but that's
Sweet.
it.
Well, definitely check that out. And what's your next convention on your list? Since people are watching, what's the next one you'd be at that they're...
I am not certain. I've been talking about New York City Comic-Con is one of my favorites at the Javits Center. It's a fun show. I've got a lot of friends who do that show, and it has always been a blast. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it, though, with just how much I've been traveling this year and things that I need to get sorted. So it might be till next year. But I will say right now, looking at next year, The PAX, the 2 PAX shows I did this year were really, really good to me, and I would love to do more of those. We'll just see what the schedule's like and what works for myself and the company is the 2 servants that I got to figure out. The 2 people that are my masters, my personal life schedule and company needs as far as what we're doing with updates and how oversaturated we are or aren't. But we gotta. I mean, that's the thing, is that it's got to make it. You've got to. The cost has to work for the company, and we're very, very fortunate that thus far it really has worked pretty nicely with the conventions we've done in terms of Gen Con and PAX East and Prime this year. But next year's a new year. Just got to start planning that out. But I do think I might be done for 2014 unless I end up bootlegging it to NYCC.
Well, and that this is really the end of the convention season. It's like once the summer wraps up, that's pretty much it for the in-person ones. I know people are probably like, "Oh no," but for the industry, for content creators and publishers, they kind of look at the summer as their time, and the rest are just kind of more local to them.
It does start winding down some here. That winter is not a big convention season for anybody, so. Yeah, we'll see what. I mean, I love New York City Comic Con. Would really, really like to do that show. It's just a matter of, do I have the time or the energy to get that done? I think it'll depend on how things go with the hiring and stuff like that we've got coming up here in the next few weeks. If I need to be. Is it going to be more beneficial if I'm sitting here helping teach those people, or is it going to be more beneficial like, they know everything and they can do it, so my time is freed up, so I should go to this convention and do some panels and stuff like that. That'll be the deciding factors there, probably. But,
well, hopefully I'll see you at Gen Con next year. My goal, I missed it this year, and I was bummed. But, whatever. My friends and I threw like a convention at my friend's house, which was so much fun. But next year I'm going. I swear.
It's such a fun show. It really, and everybody agrees on that. It's such a laid-back, fun show, and there's so much gaming, so many different types of gaming going on that you can just easily sit down, hop in, and get some games. It's a really great convention. So
yeah, I love the cosplay. Of course, I always love the community of gamers you find there, and the panels. I mean, that was really next time. It's all about like I'm gonna do demos and panels, and
I think it's interesting that you point out the panels, because I've been talking to a lot of people that say panels at Gen Con they don't matter because the attendance is low for the panels because everybody's so busy gaming. But I think that is one of the reasons the panels at Gen Con are amazing, because you have crazy access there.
Yeah.
Because you can go. I mean, so I did the panel with a bunch of comic book creators there. Scott Kurtz is there, and there's 20, 30 people in the room, and you've got access to ask questions and figure out how he does. At PAX, he's doing Acquisitions Incorporated, that live Dungeons and Dragons stream that they do with. They've had Will Wheaton in the past, and now it's Morgan Webb, and it's always been the Penny Arcade creators. So they do that for 2,000 people in a room. You don't have any access. You might as well watch that on your tablet, because you're not gonna have any interaction there. But to have a room with just 20, 30 some people and creators like that, and that's the way it is across the board. All these gigantic game developers and creators and stuff like that are taking the time to have a panel because they want to interact and they want to answer your questions and stuff like that, and you've got a much better chance to. I mean, the same for the panel I was on that was Roll20 centric at Gen Con. There were probably 100 people at least in that room. And everybody who had questions, they got their questions answered. But at the same time, we made certain that it was a long panel, because that's another thing. They allow more time for scheduling panels at Gen Con, so it was a 2-hour panel. At PAX, it was a 1-hour panel, and maybe a third of the people that wanted to ask their questions got to ask them, because it was 250, 300 people in the room, and only 1 hour of time, and. So you're totally right. The Gen Con panels are magic. Go there if you can.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing that perspective because I didn't realize, I don't go to these other bigger ones where the panels are probably more like a rock concert. And so it's like, wow, when I went to those couple Gen Con panels, I got to see the people. There's only
Yeah.
a few of us in a room and talk to these creators. And the quality was incredible. You get all these great minds together. They were even feeding off each other. I'm just sitting there
Oh,
taking notes. Like,
yeah, no, it's great. And I mean,
spectacular.
now that the panels that I love the panels, the packs, and I think too it's really great that um, they are like they make certain that they limit the number of panels so every panel is a bigger deal,
Mm,
which I think is a really smart move. But at the same time, if you're just looking for really intimate access, there is something great about Gen Con that you don't get at a lot of these other shows. So just something to think about depending on what you're looking to have.
true, true. All right, so we'll wrap it up for everybody. I'm thanking Nolan T. Jones for taking the time to see us after a very long traveling
Hey, thank
schedule.
you, Trey. I really do enjoy sitting down and doing these with you, so I appreciate you having me by.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we'll end it for the 8 viewers, and if you stay with me a moment, I have a question for you, Nolan. So
Sure.
there we go.